Welcome everybody to the Determined Podcast. My name is Pasta Guy, and I'm joined by my co-host Elsa12TMT and Cupcake Paints. And today our very special guest is KoboldKing, a fanfic writer for Undertale and stuff. And
Yay!
It's great to have you here, Kobold.
Thank you. Hello. It's nice to be on.
Yeah, you're welcome. Anyways, how about we get into it? So let's first talk about your stories and stuff. Just give people a general overview of what type of stories you write and all that stuff about you. Just the commonplace stuff.
Well, I write almost exclusively one-shots. Very small, bite-sized little stories for a variety of fandoms.
Mm-hmm.
I'm trying to think of any consistent themes or trends that I have, aside from being angsty, oftentimes.
That describes basically every fanfic writer.
Yeah, I mean, if there's no angst at all, then what are we here for, right?
Exactly.
We're here to see children suffer.
Because we're all sick bastards on the inside.
Uh-huh.
The one-shot writers, though, are super because there's some, I don't know, like when you go on like AO3 or whatever and you want to read something, sometimes you just want to see if somebody did like a general, like you want to get a general idea of, what would happen if this? And sometimes you just don't want to commit to a whole long story. So you just take a little bite and you're like, this is nice.
I don't want
Not, not every narrative needs to be a 400k epic.
Right?
I don't need a whole meal. I just want a snack.
Yeah, basically.
a good old
That's what I do. I
Undertale
supply the
snick.
bags of chips.
That's the best explanation. Honestly.
Speaking of which, I'm probably gonna have a late lunch today and stuff. So I knew I had to eat something before I came on the show, so I just grabbed a bag of chips and just
Oh wait, I thought you were talking metaphorically.
yeah.
Like with fanfic, like I had a late lunch because I woke up late, so I'm just gonna like stay here and read part of this fic I've been trying to tackle. And you're like, nah, I grabbed a bag of chips.
The line between metaphor and reality are breaking down.
Yeah. Well, to use the metaphor of that, then, like a lot of time one shots are like something you read over lunch and everything. It's like, well, I have to get back to school or work in a second, but I have time for like a 10-minute read and stuff. Might as well open up a good one shot, look up some of my favorite tags for my fandoms.
Yeah, that's true. I'm guilty of that. Like pausing life really quick just to like read a little something.
Yeah.
Hmm.
So you write mainly one shots, for like different fandoms and stuff.
Yeah, it's not just Undertale.
What was that?
Yeah, it's not. Yeah, Kobold doesn't just write stuff for Undertale. I mean, his latest fic is the Doctor Who fic, which that's a fellow Doctor Who fan. I'm glad to see at least some content coming out of that because Doctor Who fics, at least on AO3, aren't all that popular, or from at least what I've seen.
It seems to go through spikes,
Maybe if we have a season that isn't woefully boring, we would get something like that. But hey, when you get Chris Chibnall, the man who makes boring standard stuff, I guess we shouldn't be too surprised. But hey, this isn't a Doctor Who podcast.
I could certainly recommend you some great Doctor Who fics. There's this one guy who has a story about baboons from the distant future coming back in time to kill Charles Darwin. And that's the most Doctor Who thing I've ever heard.
I mean, is it as
This
Doctor
is the
Who?
part where I just nod my head and just take that in because I have no context.
I mean-
I've never seen Doctor Who.
What context do you need?
I mean, guys, we're talking about a game where Killer Robot asked us to do a cooking show with him. A sentient flower
With a
becomes
soul
God,
substitute.
and
Human
skeleton
soul substitute.
and skeletons can shoot lasers. I think our this Undertale is pretty weird too.
Yeah.
I told you guys my story of how I joined the Undertale fandom. Like, it literally started because I heard like these really weird out of context things. And I was just like super like confused. That's literally how I joined.
What the flip?
I remember seeing a picture of Sans on DeviantArt, and that was my very first time ever seeing Undertale content, and I simply thought it was this person's OC and went on.
Really?
Yeah, I'm not really plugged into popular culture that much. I have my own little fandoms, and I rarely stray outside of them. So I'm usually the last person to hear about anything new. I'm a latecomer to every fandom.
So, what got you to like actually get into?
Yeah, Undertale and stuff like just in general, and also make you start actually wanting to write it.
Well, the first time I became aware of it and became interested by it, this is gonna sound silly, maybe cringy, but my brother sent me that Sans Stronger Than You animation that was going around for a while.
Oh no.
I was so confused, out of context, by what possible story could culminate in a time-traveling toddler dueling a skeleton in a hallway.
To a Steven Universe parody.
Yeah, so I started looking into it. I spoiled myself heavily watching Let's Plays. I play so few games, I didn't expect it would actually be one I'd want to play. But it didn't take long for me to realize this one was a little something different than what I usually saw.
Well then.
That's awesome, honestly. That's actually not that bad of a way to join. I think a lot of people end up joining Undertale because they just bump into a piece of fan work and they're like, huh?
Yeah.
Yeah. Again, the way I found Undertale was like, it was like me and my sister, my older sister was like, sitting at a, we were at this like Mexican restaurant that had just opened up. It was super super popular and stuff because it was like right in the middle of town and stuff, so everyone could come to it. And we were just waiting there, and my sister was like, "Hey, have you heard of Undertale?" And I was just like, "What that?" And oh shit.
What
My
that?
God. I unplugged
In
my.
terms of like fan animations and stuff that introduces people to Undertale, I think like other than the Sans than the Stronger Than You parody, I also think of Void's Echo.
The who and the what now?
You guys don't know what I'm talking
Pause
about?
that. You
I've seen
don't
that
know
animation.
You don't know Voidless's Echo
Voidless.
video?
No.
With Gaster.
Okay. I am sending this in chat, Pasta, and you have to watch it afterwards.
Okay, jeez.
Wow.
Can't even man.
I mean, I haven't even watched Underverse yet, or read like one by one, so I am in no place to talk about like, oh yes, I'm a connoisseur of the fandom.
I am ignorant of just about every fan work. People send me these DMs asking my opinions on AUs sometimes, and I'm forced sheepishly to confess that I've never heard of them before.
The hell's it? The hell's a dreamer reborn? Anyways.
I mean, to be fair, I'm not as well versed as I could be, but I like to think that I generally I think I have what's considered like the bare bones, like Underfell, Underswap.
Yeah, I know the basics.
But then it's like there's also like certain communities of artists where their projects just tend to be grouped together. Like, oh, if you know this artist, then you probably know the stuff made by that artist's friends. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That happens a lot, and so that a lot of us end up knowing like different little sections.
Yeah.
I don't know how to describe it because I'm trying to think of an example, but it's kind of difficult.
It's just like, okay, so I'm going to go a bit back in time for you guys. Do you guys remember when My Little Pony... Do you guys remember when My Little Pony was like the biggest fandom for a while?
Yeah.
Well, I was a brony back in the day. Good old 13-year-old person that I was. And, I was, and yeah, it's like, it's like with, the, MLP fandom and stuff. If you knew certain people in the fandom, you would probably know other certain people in the fandom, like if you listen to this music artists and stuff, which by the way, like music artists were treated as freaking kings or queens or whatever back in the day. The
Living Tombstone and the like.
Yeah,
they're still going strong, but
yeah, they were treated as like freaking rulers of the fandom, the same way like comic artists or dubbers are treated in the Undertale fandom. That's how music artists were.
I'm still like I'm still processing the fact that what's it called? You guys know Sharax, right?
The what?
Yes.
The Undertale, the person who's made a ton of Undertale remixes, and they're all awesome.
Yeah,
it still blows my mind that a lot of Sharax's earlier stuff was MOP.
Yeah.
Straight up.
Like, speaking of that, like, one of the things I found out today, so, I'm not sure if I'm gonna remember her name right, but I think it's like Jenna Nicholson, who's like just a general like American pop culture reviewer and stuff. Like when I found out about it today, she actually did a video about the MLP fandom and stuff, and it was super. And go watch that video. It's like an hour and a half, but it's worth it because it's funny, it's informative, it's all those things that a good essay you'd want to be and stuff. And one of the things that I found out about her was that you guys were probably in the MLP fandom. So do you remember?
Well, I wasn't.
Well,
no, I am. I was.
Well,
I've been.
do you
were?
Do you remember? Yeah.
Heck yeah.
Do you remember this series called Friendship is Witchcraft?
Yes,
I think so.
Yeah.
That was the Gypsy Bard. That sort of that was from that, I think.
Yeah, and one of the and one of the things I found out was that Jenny Nicholson and stuff, like, she gets like all the time like, hey, I heard your voice somewhere before, and turns out back in the day, 2011, 2012 and stuff, she was a part of the MLP fandom, and she was the main voice actress and one of the co-writers for that for that animation series, and I was just like, what the heck? That's
Is
just
this a
Small world.
crossover episode?
oh god dang it! It's just when I found that out, I just had to take a step back and it just made me like think back on like one of these days I'm gonna be. It also made me think like one of these days, like years and years from now, I'm gonna be like, I don't know, hopefully a successful author and everything, and I'll be speaking at a panel, and someone's just gonna come up to me and being like, hey, did you run this podcast back in the day? And I'm just like, podcast? What podcast? And then it'll just be like that scene for Ratatouille where it's just like where it's the guy where Ego eats Ratatouille, and it'll just like warp back to my past self.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, that I remember that now.
The Determined Podcast. So that's the name. I haven't heard it a long time.
You know
It's-
what?
I just imagine like you just sitting at the bar, and then like the detective or something steps next to you and is like, yeah, the Determined Podcast. I haven't heard that name in years.
Yeah. Yes. And I take a sip of my Dr. Pepper because I don't really like alcohol.
Dr.
Same,
Blue
though.
Pepper?
Anyways,
It's a fandom bar, isn't it? I would think it was.
yeah. I don't think anyone's made that pun actually. So let's actually get back into
Let's look at one of the questions.
yeah.
Go ahead and pick one, Pasta.
Yeah. You seem to really like the Dreamer kids, especially Frisk and Kara. What do you think made you connect to them so much? Yep.
Ooh, that's a hard question. You see, more so than any other character, Frisk and Kara are kinda glorified OCs when you think about it. You have so little framework to construct their personalities around, Frisk especially.
Mm-hmm.
Oh,
that, like, struggle to find the words. Frisk in particular, I avoided writing at all for the longest time because I worried that people would think I was writing Frisk out of character. Until I really sat down one day thinking, okay, I'm going to analyze every little bit of the game so I can write an in-character Frisk. But then it turns out there's like 3 things that arguably Frisk does on their own.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm with you there. I've done a lot of, I based a lot of my interpretation of Frisk off of what little there is, and just trying to fill in the gaps. Like, for example, the date at the garbage dump, and the way the menu options, like, because I'm somebody who follows the Narakara theory, but those are some of the only moments.
Religious text. Oh, do you pray to it like it? Do you pray to it like every day?
Oh my god, that's not what I mean. You know, but I'm saying, like, I totally buy into the Narakara theory is what I'm saying. But when you're in that part of the true pacifist route, one of the text is like it's a completely different writing style. And so I always assumed that was Frisk. And so that Frisk would be like more goofy and more typo-y, silly type of person compared to Kara. You know what I mean? Like,
Right.
But like you said, it's like, okay, there's that, and then what else? That's it. Really, there's not much.
Yeah, in effect, Frisk and Kara, they're less true characters like someone like Papyrus or Undyne is. And to the fanfic writer's perspective, they're almost like writing prompts for building an OC.
Yeah.
Build an
Yeah, they
OC
are.
who would
In
do these
In some
things.
respect, yeah.
And I think that's because I've always loved making OCs. I've always liked kind of designing my own characters. So I guess that little bit of freedom in having these very strong emotional hooks to pin these characters on, while still having the freedom to figure out their personality on their own, their backstories,
Yeah.
what goes on in their heads, that was just very appealing to me.
Mm.
I
You
can
know,
relate to that honestly. With I've mentioned this before, and I'm about to talk about like the most cringe.
Elsa, you can't cut out.
Is she muted?
Oh, sorry. What is it? The cringiest part of my fandom experience was when I was in effectively the Sugar Rush fandom. Y'all know
Yeah.
Wreck-It Ralph.
Wreck-It
Y'all
Ralph?
know all those Sugar Rush racers.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was obsessed. But at the end of the day, there was like almost nothing to go off. And so
It's like the one
really
surf.
they
It's
were
like the
just
one surf thing.
OCs with designs. That's all they were.
Yeah, I
You
mean,
know?
in Wreck-It Ralph's case, even in-universe, they're two-dimensional background characters.
Yeah.
Well, not the Sugar Rush racers physically, because their game is in 3D.
Oh, well, yeah.
Yeah,
Got me there.
that's my niche fandom knowledge coming in.
I'm not up to date on my Wreck-It Ralph lore.
Oh man.
Have you,
you could
have you
make
even
also
read
know
the
that in the
official
Wreck-It-
art book?
You could
I
pick
also
far
know that
worse
in the
movies to
Wreck-It
delve
Ralph
into.
fandom, there's also the thing with all the nice
Oh,
The Nicelanders, people in Wreck-It Ralph's town.
vague-ish ideas of what they're supposed to be.
Mhm.
But like, and you're like, oh, there's not enough there for like there to be a true character. But then you see people take the little bits, kind of like you said, like a writing prompt.
Yeah.
Good fanfics that like focused on the Nicelanders and stuff, and I was like,
Well,
this
I
is
mean,
good.
as a veteran of the MLP fandom, I laugh at any suggestion that a background character who appears for 5 seconds can't have novels written about them. I'm sure anyone who's been
Valid.
in the MLP fandom knows who Lyra Heartstrings or Bon Bon are.
Yep.
special agent.
Yeah.
Or Doctor Hooves even just like what?
Dude.
Wait a minute.
They really
Derpy
leaned into that
is
one in the later seasons.
I know.
Anything with the scarf and the LZ and the.
They were like, what is physically the closest we can get to Doctor Who without the BBC coming after us?
You know.
I mean, the BBC they made fun of My Little Pony in an episode, so
Wait,
I mean,
wait, what?
they did.
Sort of. It was in Last Christmas, I think.
Yeah. Well, I don't
Yes.
remember the name of it, but it was the one. It was the one with Peter Capaldi as the Doctor, and it was Christmas, and then Santa showed up or
Yeah, Nick
something.
Frost is Santa.
Yeah.
And talking to Sona,
God.
Santa
Yeah.
mentioned that he'd gotten her My Little Pony toys.
It's like, I can take you down in 3 words. She's like, do it, My Little Pony.
Yeah.
That was a weird episode.
Yeah, it was. But then they all are, the more you look at them. I'm struggling to think of a sane episode of Doctor Who. I feel like a sane episode
so what's
would be
your
widely...
so what's your main so what's the Doctor's main antagonist? Well, there's these space squids that are basically fascists that drive around in laser tanks.
No
Yeah.
way. I don't even know what to say. You know what? Sure.
Let's just go with it. I swear it makes sense in context.
I mean, that wouldn't be the first time I hear about space fascists. Steven
Well,
Universe, anyone?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I'm in love with that. So
Yeah.
I mean, that's what I think of.
everyone does space fastest.
Because Star Wars did it.
Yeah.
That's true. Because Star Wars did it too. Oh my. Okay, now I'm
I mean-
thinking about it way too much. Is there some kind of trend? Like, first we had Disney with their whole twist villains phase, and now we. I just realized. Anyway.
I mean, World War II was kind of a big deal back in the day. Some of you youngsters may not remember it, but
Back in my day, we were shooting those damn Germans.
yeah, it's quite possible that something of that rubbed off on our collective psyche as a culture.
Yeah.
We're
True,
the
'cause it's one
cultural
of the-
equivalent of an 80-year-old man who wakes up in the middle of the night yelling about Nazis. We're not done telling those stories.
And we won't be until
I
people get the
definitely
fucking
think that-
point.
Sorry.
Pasta.
Sorry.
I definitely think that a lot, what's it called? A lot of people saw, the behavior. I'm sorry.
It's fine.
A
Take
lot
your
of people
time.
saw, Actually, you know what? Give me a second to put my thoughts together. Somebody else talk.
Yeah, we're talking about like Frisk being a bit more jokey and stuff compared to Kara and everything, and that just reminds me of this one like little short comic I found where it's just Kara and Frisk like talking like in the middle of the final battle and stuff, and Kara's just like, no. What you want to flirt with him? No, I'm not gonna let you flirt with my brother. I don't care if you think he's cute. He's still my brother.
Ew.
And yes.
About the World War II stuff. So in my opinion, I think that what happened a lot with that was that a lot of us live in societies that put a huge focus on like organization and teamwork and collaboration, and it's things that we think about as inherently good things. You know what I mean? But when you can't trust the position in power in the people in positions of power, or the people in who are like directing the collaboration, it can turn into something really ugly and twisted. And I think
it's like,
I think it's that idea that just makes people want to explore it and make up their own fascist
yeah, that makes a lot of sense. One thing I always think of, those D&D alignment charts that go around for various
for
fanfics.
sure.
I don't know that much about D&D, but one thing that always irks me is evil kings or evil empires I'm often seeing put as chaotic evil. I'm like, isn't that the opposite of what a typical evil king or evil empire is trying to do? Like, they're trying to subjugate the whole world to put it under their law?
Yeah, that sounds more like lawful evil.
Yeah,
I think the D&D alignment chart specifically is focused more on how they react to other people versus what alignments they count on in order to, stuff going on. Because the thing is, an evil king relies on his subjects to behave in a lawful evil manner. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
But he himself, he wants to start a war and he's bloodthirsty, let's just say. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
and even
so
if
he
he's
can be
smart
chaotic.
about it, he's still kind of doing it because. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that makes sense. Like, you look at...
It's not inherently like somebody who uses the idea of people will listen as long as I tell them what to do, even if it's a bad thing. People who abuse that principle aren't inherently lawful evil, in my opinion. Or I would
Yeah.
think.
I guess it would probably vary for a lot of evil characters which
Yeah.
offends them more if someone is in their way. Are they offended because that person isn't following the law, isn't following an orderly society, or are they offended because that person is in their way
Yeah.
personally? It's certainly an interesting way of looking at these characters.
Yeah, I think actually to connect it back to Undertale,
Mm-hmm.
it reminds me of when people think, because a lot of people think that the whole thing with Toriel and Asgore is like you have to pick a side, who was in the right, who was in the wrong type
Right.
of thing, but really both of them made really poor decisions
Yeah.
because of how they chose to go about handling their grief. Because
Yeah,
think about it,
they're not
Asgore
sinful.
decided to declare war on
Mm-hmm.
humanity because his kids died. That was not very smart of him. But again,
Oh
he
no, they killed
relied
my beloved
on
human child. I said kill all the
yeah,
humans.
and then he relied on, like, for example, he relied on the idea that, oh, Undyne is in the royal guard, so she will kill humans if I ask her to, if we're at war against humans. You know what I mean?
Right, right.
Mhm.
Whereas then we have Toriel, who's like, oh no, humans are good inherently, which is also a dangerous mentality
Yes, he's completely
because,
blind to Frisk on the genocide
yeah,
road.
Mm-hmm.
yeah, she is somewhat blind, like
Yes, he turns her
when
back for
she,
3 seconds and Frisk stomps on a frogget.
yeah, and then she's like, oh nope, I didn't see that, turns blind eye. Um, but yeah, so that's probably why, I don't know, that's my theory on why fascist dictatorships are like a trend, or were a trend at some point in media. Because people are like,
Yeah.
yeah, that's a lot of deep stuff to be thinking about.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. There's always... I know Undertale is an incredibly deep and well-written game, but there is always this innate kind of amusement I get when we have these long conversations about a character whose name is a pun on the word tutorial.
Yes.
Yeah, talking
And the
about
fact that Asgore couldn't come up with a name for his own child, so he just mashed his name and his wife's name together.
Yeah, Asriel's name is the sip name of Asgore and Toriel.
man, I love Asriel so man, I love Asriel so much. The character, no, Asgore and Toriel together.
No, the ship.
That's why people call
What?
it Torscore.
Yeah,
Some
that's
people do.
yeah, yeah. I
Yeah,
call
they
it
had to call it
Torgor.
that just to avoid ambiguity.
Yeah. Anyways,
And then-
let's get
Yeah,
into
yeah.
a more fun topic because
This is getting heavy.
yeah.
Bring out the weights.
All right. What are some of your favorite interpretations of Kara and Frisk?
I haven't, like I mentioned, I'm not that familiar with 90% of fan works.
Mm.
So if I tried to name off, the absolute best of all time, literally everyone who hears it would be outraged that I left out the best one.
Well, what
Well,
are
there's
the...
a difference between saying this
Personally-
one's the best and this one's my favorite.
Yeah. Personally, I was most enamored by, I don't know how to pronounce his name, the Archimage.
Oh, Archie mate. Yeah,
I was
who,
most
by the
enamored
way,
at his-
shameless plug. We interviewed him.
Yeah, I saw that.
In episode 5. So yeah, go check that out. People watching
You-
this, all
You
3 of
remember
you.
the episode number, Pasta?
Oh, well,
Wow.
well,
Possible to learn this power.
well, when you have to label all of these things, because I'm the person who actually uploads this stuff.
Yeah.
You like that So in terms of like your favorite interpretations, that would be one of them, or
Yes,
your
very
favorite.
definitely.
Oh, okay.
I binged all of his one shots. Haven't quite tackled his longer works yet. Uh, Embarrassing to admit, I guess. But no, he has this particular way of writing them that feels very real to me. They feel like real people in a way that always it just grabbed me and enamored me instantly.
Yes.
There are a lot of other Karas that sort of float around. Karas, Charas, Charas. I've never heard that one.
Chera, ooh.
Chera. That's a new one.
I always liked this idea of like a fic where Sans is talking to Kara, and he keeps making puns based on their name, but every single one of them relies on a different pronunciation.
I
can see that happening.
They really care about you, or I know a charlatan when I see one. None of them
Or I'm just
can
gonna
all
sit
make
in
sense
this chair.
simultaneously.
I'm just gonna say.
Oh my god! I just have a beautiful image. Like Sans is Sans is a bit Sans is a bit nervous, like making sure his speech to them and stuff goes right and stuff. So he literally gets a chair and puts a face on it to practice his dramatic speech to them. Like, do you think the worst person can change?
Googly eyes.
It's Chera.
But
Just put a couple of red googly eyes on any chair, and you can have your very own Chera at home.
for the low cost of whatever the heck red googly eyes cost.
Home project.
Yeah.
Pinterest.
Anyways.
For the low price of 5 minutes.
Anyways.
So
by the way,
for you to go
before
more
I
in
derailed
detail
myself
with
with puns.
Oh, I'm sorry. To go in more detail with the, because earlier you were saying that Kara and Frisk, to a certain extent, they're like writing prompts for OCs. What is your favorite, like characteristic that people give?
I like, this sounds horrible, but I love Kara self-loathing. You know, it's an easy one to extrapolate from the fact that they were willing to die to break the barrier and the method they chose.
Honestly, I agree. Feel called out.
I mean, Kara angst is pretty good. I mean,
it is pretty good.
I mean, my favorite type of Undertale angst is Azrael angst. Inject that stuff into my veins. Just,
Yeah, you know, I probably spend more time writing Kara bassing than any other person who loves Kara, because so much of it is from Kara's point of view.
And then Frisk is there, just Kara's just like I'm a terrible person, and Frisk is just here like, no, you not, mate. Stop being mopey.
Pacifist or not, I would beat up literally anyone else who said these things about you.
I would beat you up, but that'd be hurting you, and I don't want to do that.
Also, we're trapped in the same body, so that would be kind of painful.
Oh, yeah.
Hey, Car, stop it. Ow!
Slap self in the face.
That's officially my headcanon that has happened at least once. That's great. What about for Frisk? What trait do you like that you see people give to Frisk?
Well, I mean, all the comics where Frisk is really playful and flirtatious, they're always hilarious.
I think that's. I mean, yeah. I think that's funny.
Yeah, it is funny. I just I'm fine with that characteristic. I mean, my Frisk has that too. In my story. I mean, there's. I have an example of this, but I'm just like, hey, is it okay if I tell people this example and stuff? Because, I mean, it's not like this is gonna get an age restricted and stuff. But it still could make people a bit uncomfortable. But anyways, yeah, I just still I'm just not the biggest fan of like when that's like one of their like big defining aspects. They're like a flirt machine and stuff.
I like.
Yeah, I don't like when it gets played like too much. But like considering that at the very least, Frisk will flirt has so many random options to like flirt with people. Like, I mean, I totally get why they would make that a trait, you know?
Yeah, especially because, as stated previously, we have so little to work with.
Yeah.
I like seeing interpretations of Frisk that are kind of rough around the edges.
Oh yeah.
Like, so oftentimes what you'll see is Kara depicted as this horribly flawed child with a list of character defects that goes on for miles and miles, and Frisk is, by comparison, worthy of being sainted and knighted simultaneously.
I know. It's like so.
A lot of people do that.
I know it's so annoying a lot of the times where it's just like oh, all these characters are flawed and stuff, but Frisk is a little precious pure child.
It can be just as canon that Frisk comforts Asriel, or that Frisk doesn't.
So yeah, I'm just like
True.
And also like
People don't think about that.
Also Asriel specifically states like at the end of the pacifist rouse, it's just like, hey, Frisk, Kara walked up the mountain for a pretty screwed up reason, and someone who just wants to disappear, like climbing up Mount Everett and stuff, they're probably pretty screwed up too.
Yeah, I mean, Frisk may or may not have sadistically emptied out an entire water cooler in front of Undyne.
You sick.
See, like, baking in the Hotlands heat.
Oh god, this is gonna...
Oh my gosh! I forgot about that.
I remember this one. I remember this one meme where it was just like, Undyne like getting like all cooked up and stuff, like being so hot and everything, and it just like cuts to a seafood commercial and stuff. It's just like freshly cooked grilled fish with Undyne's face
terrible.
on it. I know, but it made me laugh.
It's like the Shell City scene from SpongeBob.
It's horrifying, but it's still kind of funny.
Yeah.
Arguably, the Frisk who empties out the water cooler would also think this is hilarious.
I mean...
And I only know this dialogue because I did it, so I have no moral high ground.
But, by the way, can I just say one thing? Like, that scene where, like, Patrick and SpongeBob, like, dry up and stuff, that screwed me up as a kid.
It was so sad. But then they just, like, literally turned into a starfish and a kitchen sponge, and I'm just like, excuse me.
Excuse me, sir.
What's not supposed to happen.
Yeah. Alright.
It's possible SpongeBob took a few liberties with the laws of physics and biology. You know, I'm not an expert, but...
I mean, Sandy was able to have a sustainable life in the ocean, so I mean, that has to break at least a few laws.
No, Sandy's just that cool.
How did she get down there though? That's my question.
Maybe there was someone like sipping a squirrel with a self-contained terrarium to some preserve somewhere, and it got knocked off into the ocean. I don't know. Someone will have to write that fanfic. Someone else will have to write that fanfic. I'm making no commitments.
Oh my gosh.
It's probably already been written for all I know.
Honestly.
I don't go searching for SpongeBob fanfics because I am scared of what I'll find.
Tune in for KoboldKing's new SpongeBob fanfic. It's free too.
Yeah, that's kind of wild. What is it? So, hold up. Let me look at the questions to see. I guess we can talk about. So you've interpreted slash your versions of Kara and Byron, right?
Say that again. Sorry.
Your Kara and Frisk interpretations are non-binary.
Yes. I will come clean. I know little about gender identity kind of stuff. Trying to educate myself on it, but it's not something that I consider myself an expert on.
So, what made you come to that conclusion that that would be like the best? Was it because of fanon, or did you find, or is there something that you use to support it? You're like, oh, it probably leads this direction.
For starters, I see they, them pronouns for them both as simply canon. People can write, male Frisk, male Kara, female Kara. It doesn't offend me when people do write those fics, but I do feel like if we're trying to write the most canonically accurate Frisk and Kara, then they choose to go by they, them pronouns. You can make an argument about Frisk that maybe Frisk would prefer to be called a he or a she, but literally no one even knows their name, so they don't know.
Yeah.
But it does feel like Azrael would know what Kara prefers.
I personally always saw, between the two of them, Frisk is the one that is more, just like we're in the dark and we don't completely know.
Mm-hmm.
But, I mean, Kara's close friends and family, the Dreamers, referred to them as with they, them pronouns. So, obviously, they preferred those, you know?
Or at the very
but
least,
with Frisk, we don't really know. They just call, hey, human.
Yeah.
We don't know.
Twist, the entire Underground and the Dreamer family were just too polite to ask them.
Yeah.
Twist, Frisk wasn't a human at all.
Oh, don't bring up that fan fear. That's dumb.
That is a theory. It's just like, wait a minute.
Is it?
Yeah, it's a theory.
Okay, I'm sorry. I don't support it. No.
I believe very firmly that the conveniently shaped lamp actually took Frisk's place as an imposter for the duration of the pacifist room. I can back this up, just don't ask me for evidence.
I can back this up, just don't ask me for evidence.
I know the reason. I have the evidence. Just don't ask to see it.
Just don't ask to.
Just trust me on this.
All right. I trust you. That's canon.
Yeah.
It's officially canon. What is this? Pasta.
Hmm?
You wouldn't pick another question?
Oh, sure.
Pasta, are you eating a thing?
I have pizza.
I want pizza. Give me some.
Give me some. I want some.
Sharing is caring, Pasta.
I don't have a teleporter.
Aw, man. Darn it, I left my teleporter in the other room.
Before the podcast. It's just one of the things you need, like a mic.
Yeah. If you
Microphone, computer, teleporter. They're all...
Even I know this stuff.
critical.
Now just imagine, if I had the money for it, I make a call to your guys' hometown and call up the local Domino's or something and be like, hey, guys, Domino's, yeah, send pizza to this address.
Yeah, good luck with that. I'm in the visiting family in the middle. There's like no pizza around.
Yeah, I'm deep on back roads in the jungles of Hawaii. They might get lost somewhere along the way. Also, they put pineapple on it.
That makes sense because it's Hawaii, actually. So.
Yeah.
My mom loves pineapple on her pizza. And the dumbest part is that she's allergic to pineapple. And I'm like, Mom, just
she likes
don't.
she likes pineapple on her pizza, so she should have voting rights then, right?
You know, every other bit of Hawaiian cuisine I've taken to, like a fist of water. You know, spam musubi, I actually like that. You know, poke, which is literally just these spiced cubes of raw fish. I've gorged myself on that stuff. Pineapple on pizza is where I'm gonna have to draw a line. That just feels wrong.
Okay. Here's the story behind pineapple pizza. It's actually good, but the way people do it is like the worst way to have pineapple on pizza. How you're actually supposed to do it, you're not supposed to put like little like chunks of pineapple on it. What you're supposed to do is actually like get a cheese grater and grind up the pineapple and stuff and like sprinkle it onto the pizza like cheese or something like that. That's how you're actually supposed to do it. But people are just lazy. Or just like, it says like
can of pineapple chunks dump.
Yeah, exactly.
Another great wonder ruined by human incompetence.
I mean, my mom is just.
I'd more call it human laziness.
Laziness is a contributing factor to incompetence.
That's true. Look at Sans just, sleeping on the job and all that.
Don't worry, I'll watch that child.
Loses the child. Right? You haven't died once. I still think that's just terrible. You haven't died once, right?
What's that face for?
What's that?
I could imagine I'll watch the kid, and he looks at like MK or something instead.
That's the wrong kid.
Not that child, the other child.
MK like, what? I'm not important enough to be watched over.
Yo.
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 I still love your.
Oh, are we bringing back Cupcake's MK impression?
No.
MK would like. Cupcake would like to keep her throat intact.
Yeah.
I mean, I have enough water, so I should be fine. But I don't want to tear up my throat this early.
Well, we're about 52 minutes in, so it's not too early into the podcast.
When did that happen?
We talked for a while.
Oh.
Anyways.
Alright, so I guess we should just go into some more of this stuff. So, you're a Karisk shipper. Or Karisk or whatever, right?
Right. I like that content.
What made you want to ship them together? What made you want to? In general, or you're just like, let's just pair the two humans up.
Well, it really is kind of that simple in some ways. I think it's sweet. I think especially considering them being, fused body and soul, and embarking on this epic time traveling adventure. It gives them, I would say, a very strong, unique bond to one another.
Yeah.
I think it would be, whether or not you consider it romantic or platonic, I think the only way you could even say sane in such a relationship would be to develop some sort of love for them. Love for each other.
Yeah, I always saw. I 100% agree with you, and that's something. What you just said right now is like basically my exact thoughts on it.
Mm-hmm.
Because you get it, you get it, capital G, capital I. But there's also like yeah, don't drop stuff. Anyway, what is it? I'm also just thinking to myself, like, that's just, I mean, when I tend to present it as platonic, and like I either look at it through two lens, because I'm somebody I'm pretty flexible with how I write a relationship between two characters, whether it's like romantic, platonic, or familial, or anything like that. Because I just like to spread my wings and like mess around with it, since at the end of the day, none of the interpretations is canon. You know what I mean? Like, for sure, it's all
Yeah, I certainly
what
have
you
no
think.
desire to go out crusading, convincing people that
Oh,
this is
yeah.
the best set. And it's proven by canon, because if you think about the subtext of when Kara says, it's a snowpaw, they really mean is, Chris, you're my snowpaw.
Chris, you're my snowpaw.
I'm gonna go up to someone and be like, hey, are you hey, I know you're cool and stuff, but I think you're so cool that you could be my snow pop.
Oh my lord. No, but the point I'm trying to make with the thing is, when I see people write fanfic or whatever, and Kara and Frisk have like a very distant relationship, like for whatever reason, like they got separated or something like that, but then they don't really talk to each other. I'm like, no, but they were stuck in a body together. They did time traveling, like at least like family, or maybe they fell in love, or maybe they just are just really close friends. Maybe they have like a relationship where they are platonic, but they confide in each other because they know each other better than anybody else would know them. And it's just like, why do you separate them, like physically, only to just have them talk to each other?
Yeah, it's worth noting that if you subscribe to the Kara narrator theory, then Kara actually has more dialogue than any other character in the entire game. They're with Frisk more often than anyone else. And imagine, you're with someone literally 24/7 every single day, possibly for years up on the surface, post pacifist. Can you imagine the sheer number of in-jokes such people would have?
Of course. It would just be every reference that that Undertale fans make ever, all of them.
Yeah, because they've shared so many experiences, the ups and the downs.
Yeah.
Like Kara's just outside of Frisk, and like they take two pieces of candy, and then Frisk just whispers, "You monster."
Laughing their heads off, and Toriel scratching her head with no idea what this is about.
Yeah, exactly.
Me and my brother, we talk about Undertale sometimes, and we and considering the events that happen in my own personal AU, Kara isn't really alive and stuff with Frisk and Asriel for reasons. If you read far enough in it, you'll know exactly why. But anyways, so yeah, but we joke about like, hey, what if Kara was alive and stuff, and just like how she'd like changed like certain situations that Frisk and Asriel are in, especially since Frisk and Asriel develop a romance and stuff. And I just once thought of a time where Kara just freaking snitches on Asriel, and it's just like, oh yeah, my bro's totally in love with you. Say what now?
you know he likes you, right? Wait, what?
Yeah, wants to smooch you, all that like teenage boy stuff with the pretty girl and stuff.
Yeah, you play the dramatic sound bites from the end of the genocide route, but instead of weird stuff about erasing the world, it's, my brother has a crush on you.
He wants
Dun
to...
dun dun. Cliffhanger.
It's just... Yeah, it's just stuff like that. Also, the car I have is asexual and stuff, and they're kind of a shut-in and everything after coming back to life and stuff, and they become an artist. Artists and stuff that gets their money from drawing a bunch of commissions and stuff, and SFW stuff involved too. So I could just tell Cupcake was like,
right?
"Wow, that car sounds a lot like me," and then that came up, and they're just like, "Maybe not." But yeah, also the idea of Frisk and Azra, after they get involved in a relationship and stuff, they get their own house and everything, and Carr comes to live with them as the
Uninvited, Kara just shows up.
That's supposed to be our guest room. Well, now it's my room.
Sometimes it'd be like that. You just have that friend that basically lives at your house.
Yeah. It's just also we had the theory that Carr gets a bit chubby because they stay inside eating chocolate and ramen noodles and stuff, being a shut-in.
Yeah.
They have their secret stash of M&Ms.
And Frisk and Azrael just this is Azrael and Frisk are just Kara, you need to improve your diet. You're getting lethargic and overweight. And Kara's just what are you talking about? I'm fine. Fine. Oh really?
And then chocolate with sugar-free sweets. It doesn't end
I'm sorry,
well.
and then Frisk and Azrael are I'm sorry, but anybody who sits there nomming on dry ramen noodles like they're potato chips needs help. Yeah.
It's just
Kara. It's just
It
one.
is kind of a weird little gremlin when you think about it.
one of the most naughty things I have and stuff. It's just with the way that I imagine their house being. It's Frisk and Azrael's bedroom is right above cars and stuff. And it's just after Frisk and Azrael finish up their business. Not gonna say what that is.
So Kara calls them out afterwards.
Yeah, no, it's this. It's Frisk and Azrael just being that. Telling each other, oh, that was amazing and stuff, and Car's just well, from what I heard from downstairs, it sounded like a pretty average performance, especially and a kind of above average performance on your part, Azrael. I mean, Frisk is usually a lot more vocal than she was with that.
Oh my god. I see.
This is a good way to get evicted, Kara. Or exercised.
Honestly, Kara, I mean, again, they're a Kara supporter here. I totally support the idea. Kara's sense of humor is just deadpan, but also either dark or just crass, just for the shock factor.
Yeah. I would have also another thing I imagine with Kara and stuff. It's the contrast between my version of MK being all happy-go-lucky and stuff, and Car just being a downer and everything. It's just MK being so come on, Car, aren't you ready to face the day and stuff? And Car's just yep, just another day until my inevitable death, which will most likely be from an accident, considering my age. Most likely a car accident too, that will be brutal.
Oh,
Kara, that is not how you have a positive outlook on life.
Life? Don't talk to me about life.
No. And then Kara's answer to that is, maybe that's not how you have how you look at life positively, but it's how I do. Because getting hit by a car is certainly better than being murdered.
It was like,
No,
Kara, like, I'm gonna have a horrible day.
No, you gotta be positive.
I'm
Fine.
positive I'm gonna have a horrible day.
I feel like Kara and Frisk, having both died like a billion times in the underground together, you know, they breathe their last gasp side by side. I feel like a coping mechanism for the two of them would be cracking these dark jokes about it.
Yeah.
Honestly, because on a certain level, they've been kind of probably Azrael would too with the whole at least Flowey would. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because it's just like for all of them, it's like on one level they're kind of desensitized to it, but on another level, it's kind of painful. All of the going through that again and again and again. And so it's just like, oh yeah, death, that thing that, has happened to us a couple times. Let's make jokes about it.
So to be fair, the vast majority of whatever deaths Flowey experienced were probably his own fault. Because they were all Sans.
Not all of them, no.
Fine, like, so what if I just antagonized Undyne until she shot like 100 spears through me? I mean, that was her problem. Oh god, I screwed up.
I mean, considering that Flowey discovered that he had the ability to save and reload and all that, save and load was originally because he tried to put an end to himself. I would assume that and especially because he started out as Azrael, or at least with the moral code that Azrael had before he just kind of got all of the morality sucked out of him because it wasn't doing him favors.
Yeah.
I would think that a lot of the bulk of his deaths would be like as a result from like him making a mistake when trying to make a friend or get along with someone or help somebody out or whatever in the early days, and then he wanted to undo it, and so he would have to put himself in a situation where was in danger so that he could go back and fix it. That's what I would think. And then especially with all because but like Flowey had a bunch.
Like my headcanon for Flowey and stuff, it's like I had a headcanon where he basically I even wrote a short story about this where Flowey basically he like tried to like make everyone happy and stuff, and there was like a timeline where everyone was like super happy and stuff. Asgore and Toriel were back together, Alphys and Undyne were together and stuff, Mettaton was a star of the underground and everything, and he made everyone as happy as he could and stuff. And he thought if he did all this, it'd be like, hey, if I do all this and stuff, make Alphys less depressed and everything, maybe she'll like actually figure out a way to fix me. And then she doesn't, and that kind of just completely destroys him.
Ooh.
I mean, I would think like up until like the last little bit, I'm pretty sure that like he outright said that he tried to use it for good stuff, but it didn't fix anything in his it didn't fix the problems he had from suffering from not having a soul, because supposed to be monster souls are made up of like, what are they made up of, like I forgot what it was, but it's like it's specifically like compassion and like very specific things, because people think, oh well, he does have a soul, he doesn't realize it because like he's just missing monster soul, and those are the emotions that empathetic abilities that he just can't tap into at all. And so I think that sure he said that he said outright maybe in the like towards the end of the genocide route he said that he attempted to like reconcile and help people and talk to Tori and Asgore and all those, but it wasn't able to fix the even though it was technically the right thing to do, it didn't actually fix the issues that he was feeling. You know, that he was experiencing, not feeling. But yeah.
I'm
But that
getting
is
like
kind of
sorry.
you can go ahead and add after I say this quick thing, but I think the idea that he befriended Alphys and and asked her for help, but she wasn't able to help would
Yeah.
I like that idea that could
Like-
just be like, wow, there's no
I
hope
like
for
the
me.
I like the idea that, in the early timelines, Alphys and Sans were working together at the True Lab, and they both tried to help. They're both Sans is even a genius in some ways. Back when he was
Yeah.
still apathetic,
Yeah.
but
What I wanted to say was I feel
Mhm.
like I'm feeling major like reverse Groundhog Day vibes,
to fight
and
him later.
I'm
'Cause
not
one of the
sure
few-
why.
Because one of the few things we know about Flowey and Sans' relationship is Flowey warning Frisk/player, don't let Sans know anything about you.
Don't
because-
trust the
Fine.
smiley trash bag.
Yeah, it implies to me that
I'm pretty
Sans
sure-
had to have used some bit of information that Flowey gave and later regretted against him.
I guess I always interpreted it as the fact that Sans seems to have done active research on the because he has like the books on like quantum physics and all that stuff.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Sans is his own bewildering
sees the
rabbit hole of
effects.
enigmas.
He sees the evidence of it in front of him, and it's not that he recalls things, but he's like, okay, this lines up a lot with this theory or this idea or this concept or whatever, because people are like, oh well, he kind of vaguely remembers these things because there's like deja vu that some
All the
characters get.
monsters
Well, all of them
experience
get
deja
it.
vu.
All of
I
them
think-
get it.
I
Torio
think
with
the difference is that
the
yeah.
pie, all of that stuff.
I think the difference is that Sans knows enough to take those feelings dead seriously.
And he's like, hold up, something fishy is going on, because he's actually
if I
educated
look
on
at-
the topic.
If I look at that smiling flower and any part of me feels fear, there's probably a very good reason for that.
Yeah.
I probably experienced something in another timeline.
And maybe it, because like you said, it could be that Flowey gave information to Sans at some point. He did something that Flowey did not like, or but with that information like hurt him or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
The way I always saw it was that Flowey was trying to warn Frisk that this guy is like aware that at the very least he just doesn't really, I mean, he can't do much about it. Look at the genocide route. What was he able to do about it?
Well, it's kind of changed later on because more players started playing, expecting, and even wanting to fight a hard boss fight. But if you look at polls taken early on in the fandom, a fairly solid percentage of players gave up when they fought Sans. They weren't expecting it. So
Yeah.
Sans' effectiveness as a genocide route deterrent has decreased over time, but it was there to some extent to begin with. I know people who gave up at Sans. They reset and played the pacifist route, which means Sans won.
Honestly, like if I was, I don't think I ever will because I'm a sweet boy who loves these characters too much. That I will if I ever do a genocide route, I'd probably beat Sans, and then I'd just be like, no, thank you. I've seen enough, good sir.
Yeah.
My
I
friend
played.
described it to me. She said when I play the genocide route, I always stop at the Sans fight because I want his caring to matter.
Ooh.
Because for the most time.
Sorry.
I played that route several times, but I always reset the moment that Buttercup McSmile shows up because I'm above consequences.
Wow.
Honestly, like, my theory is that I think the best honestly, I think the best, like, if we're going about, like, okay, if they were to stop when, like, if they were so far in and stuff, I think, like, the thing that could make Frisk / Car legit stop would be, like, Flowey with the face of Azrael begging them not to kill them and stuff, because them...
I'm pretty sure that's the last attack input that the player enters.
Yeah.
Like, it stops, the player hits Z once to confirm the attack, and from there, Kara finishes on.
Yeah.
But it's kind of noteworthy that, like, even having reached LV20, apparently Kara still pauses just for a moment to get the player's confirmation. Like,
And I don't know. I know everybody has different interpretations of like the genocide route and like what motivated Kara to assist and participate. I've always saw it as because technically Frisk's body is what's called Frisk. It's because technically the person who's making most of the calls is Frisk, and Kara's just providing the options and kind of the support that that as a result Kara always Kara usually looked to Frisk for what their goal would be. Okay, are we going to try to save everybody? Are we going to try to do this? Are we going to kill everyone? All right, then let's go for it. Because
backed up.
what is it? The second time that you play the second time you play the genocide route, Kara is like all confused, like, bro, like, why? Kara's like
perverted sentimentality.
Yeah, like I don't blame Kara, because if it was me and if I was in Kara's position, I'd be like, oh, I would think the same thing, that okay, so we went through all this fuss to end the world. You went back and undid it, and I thought that you were going to just, you felt bad and you had remorse, and so we were going to try to fix, or you were going to try to right the wrongs that you did, but then you went and killed everyone again. Why?
And it's one of those, it starts to break down when you try to consider Frisk as a character, because it starts to only make sense from the point of view of something that's like us. Something that's cold and detached from this world. Because it's so hard to understand, why would any 12-year-old child do this? What possible motives or personality could a 12-year-old child have to fight Sans, face painful death over and over and over again, and then reset and do it over and over?
Well, I mean,
willingly,
I
even
have
after
my
winning.
headcanon. Unfortunate. My headcanon's kind of lame, though. Mine is that, because you know how in order to get the true pacifist route, you have to play through the game once first, properly.
Right. A neutral ending is required.
You need to get a neutral ending first. Even if your first playthrough, you technically, you didn't kill anyone and you did actions that would have hypothetically triggered the true pacifist route. the first time you played, it'll still register as a neutral route.
Right.
So I always, well, not always. Back when I was like super super hardcore into this fandom, my kind of like, I guess like mental, like whenever I would write stories about Undertale, I always did it with the idea that um Frisk and Kara's first route, first attempt was one of those. It would have been true pacifist, but it was the first playthrough, and so you got a neutral ending. And so the next attempts weren't because Frisk wanted to, um, not not because Frisk was like, okay, now let's see what happens if we kill people, but more like Frisk was trying to find uh a way to like actually, I guess, win properly. Does that make sense? I don't know. That's how I mean
think
that
so.
it's something I don't see a lot of people approach it that way. They tend to fan in for their fanfics.
Yeah.
But I like to think, but in for me, I'd like to think that Frisk has played through pretty much all of them, except yeah, pretty much all of them.
That could work pretty well.
I mean,
I always
it's
have it. I usually
it's
have
hard.
it as. Sorry.
How
go
do you
ahead.
have it?
Finish.
Well, I was just saying that it's just something that on certain levels, it's like, oh, but that's kind of lame. Like that's like a cop out
I don't
answer
think so.
for why Kara, for not Kara, for why Frisk would choose to do that. Because some people are like, okay, let's really go into the psychology of it, and it's like, I'm a party pooper. Yeah, I think they just they tried to do it without killing people and it didn't work. So then they were like, okay, let's see what we can change.
I mean, if this doesn't work either, like reset, no foul, no harm done.
Yeah, but what routes do you what is it that you were saying? Which ones do you tend to like keep?
Well, I'm a sucker for first run being a high LV neutral route, simply because they're a feisty, determined little child who tended to get into a lot of fights up on the surface with other kids.
I can see that, honestly.
Carried that with them down there. I like the idea that maybe they had some temper issues. You look at when you fight Toriel, you're doing these little increments of damage until the very end where you do like hundreds and hundreds of points of damage in one hit. I kind of like interpreting that as first temper finally rising up. And this being the first time they're really aware of just how much more powerful they are here than they were up there.
Wow. I mean,
That they're, yeah.
I could get behind that. I could get behind that.
I kind of, well, I like I said, I like Frisk having their share of mistakes and defects to go along with Kara's. Like it's not, it's neat, but it's not as interesting to me if Kara is the one who's flawed and Frisk is this perfect one who helps them become a better person. I like them both kind of making
I think
each
of it
other
as like
better
teamwork.
over time.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, yes. They make each other better and they learn from each other.
Mm-hmm.
They
if you
support
look at
each
the
other.
check text for a lot of monsters, Kara actually justifies most monsters.
Yeah.
Or tries to give hints about what might get through this encounter without violence. Like, Kara doesn't really raise any objections if you decide to start dusting everyone in sight. But neither are they this evil demon that is constantly saying, kill, kill, kill.
Yeah.
That's not really who they are if you go with the narrator interpretation. The narrator theory is hard to argue against, considering we get that white text saying, it's me, Kara.
Yeah.
Anyways, how about we move on to another question?
All right.
Oh, were we dwelling too much on this stuff?
We can go back to Space Fastest if you want.
No. It's just like we have spent a lot of time on this, and I do want to get through all of them.
Right.
Alright then.
Anyways, getting a bit away from Undertale actually for a second, you've written works for other fandoms, such as Doctor Who to Skyrim to Tasman Hotel. What's it like dipping into other fandoms when you're mainly known as an Undertale writer?
It's not really that different for the most part. Whatever I write on one side, it's really just whatever I felt motivated to hammer out that day to edit, and whatever I had the confidence to actually post, instead of join the legions of half-finished works on my computer. I think I often feel anxiety when posting to a new fandom, thinking, all my comments on other fics have been nice, but what if this fandom's gonna be the one that gets me like 20 death threats?
What if this the one's going to be like someone posts an essay in YA? What?
I was actually worried about that with Undertale, because I'm not really involved in many fandom spaces, and I heard this kind of stereotype of the toxic Undertale fan, so I was a little bit nervous posting my first Undertale on one side. It's like,
I don't blame you. I don't.
Yeah.
Oh, dude.
There's a lot of great people in the fandom, but I have noticed that a lot of the toxic people are the most, how shall I say this, the most vocal, I guess.
Yeah. And it turned out to be unfounded, at least within my sphere. I've never gotten a mean comment.
Yeah.
I can't even think of much negative that's been said. I think one person at one point commented saying he thought my characterization of someone was a little off, but even he wasn't mean about it.
Yeah.
I
mean, I have that fear too, like, especially when, like, okay, so, and for those who did read my, own Undertale AU and stuff, one of the things about is that my Frisk, starts off as using they, them pronouns because of reasons, but they're later revealed to be female and stuff, and I was just like, am I gonna have to write a separate post and stuff explaining myself about my headcanons and everything? But then I posted the chapter, and then people just didn't care because, well, it's fan fiction, bruh.
Yeah, I mean, it's your version of Frisk,
Yeah,
Your Frisk can be the reincarnated soul of Charlie Chaplin. I'm not gonna send you hate comments.
I just think Undertale in particular is weird because, like we were talking about earlier, Frisk and Kara we don't know them that well, and so it's hard to tell, hold up, a canonically this, or is it just just incredibly vague and nobody knows anything? Like with Kara using they them pronouns, okay, sure, they use they them pronouns, but what else? You know what I mean? Like that's all we have to go off. And then it's especially weird because there is non-binary representation in Undertale, like Napstablook, and
I always forget that. I fall into the trap of calling him a he him, but someone pointed that out to me recently. I felt bad.
So was Mettaton pre I guess whatever, I don't know, before, like when he was a ghost,
when he was incorporeal.
Yeah,
before he got robot pod.
Before the robot pod.
He's been
was
presented
also
as a trans narrative. I've seen him presented as such before.
Yeah, exactly, because what is it? In Undertale, the ghosts are or at least assigned at birth, they them. In a sense, I know it's weird, but it's like that's just how it was. But then when Mettaton decided to get a metal body, he was like, okay, I'm gonna go with he him because I want to be he him, That's what makes me feel more comfortable. And so that's where it gets really dicey because it's like, okay, so there's these characters that are represented a certain way, and they're like LGBT or whatever. But then there's these other characters that are like in this weird gray area, you know? And it's
Right.
like, what is erasure and what isn't?
Right.
That's where things get weird, and that's why some people are like, oh, but to say Frisk is a girl is erasure, you know?
Yeah, I've gone out. Gender identity isn't really a focus of my stories.
Yeah.
And I don't think it would be good to have it so that you have to make it a big deal to write about these characters.
Yeah.
Like, you know, non-binary people can have just normal suffering and angst without having to delve into that.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
I mean, like, I address it for like a chapter and stuff.
I think the closest I've ever come to hinting about it is at one point I hint at potential dysmorphia felt by Kara because Frisk and Kara may have different kinds of bodies.
Well,
Yeah.
yeah,
Even
but
then,
like
I only kind of
I get
hint at
that.
it.
I
Even
totally
then, I
get
only
that.
hint at it. I don't specify. You know, I hint that they're different, but I don't specify which is which.
Yeah, because I get that. Like, this is like I promise it's gonna be one sentence. I'm not gonna elaborate much. But I bumped into this Kid Icarus fanfic that was talking about this morphe. I don't know how to say it properly. With Dark Pit, because Pit is different from Dark Pit. You know what I mean? But he was created as a clone. So once bad guy stuff was over, he was like, yeah, this doesn't really fit me, because I'm not him. This is his body. You know what I mean? Because
Right.
it's not always something related to gender, So, so yeah, I totally.
Like I
Yeah.
said,
It's
not a
perfectly
huge-
reasonable
It's
to
not a
present
huge
that.
focus for me.
Yeah, it's not either. Like, with my upcoming, I'm currently writing a Deltarune story and stuff, and I was just wondering, like, oh, what's Chris's gender gonna be and stuff, and I'm just like, you know what? I'm gonna go with like gender ambiguity. I ain't gonna just. They're just gonna
Yeah.
use they. I'm just gonna use they them. You can interpret that however you want. They could be a guy. They could be a girl.
Yeah.
That's not the point.
You,
Point though. It's just there's way more
That's
stuff
exactly what I do.
There's this new show on Netflix called Kipo and the Age of Wonder Beasts, and it has a gay character in its central cast. And I recall reading something by the showrunner who was saying that it was important to him that there be gay representation on the show. He said he also felt that this character being gay should only be like the 300th most interesting thing about him. It's not the first thing you'd bring up.
Yeah.
It's not the central pole that all other aspects of his characterization are hung on.
Yeah.
As can be a trap that is fallen into.
Yeah, unless you're doing like a
It's like when representing any minority, honestly.
Yeah,
It's
unless
something
you're
very
like
common.
specifically doing a story about that, like doing a story about like a gay romance or something like that, or just exploring someone's sexuality and stuff. You don't really need to bring that up. I mean, you wouldn't expect like in some alternative world like where like straight people are somehow the minority, them just going up and being like, "Hey guys, isn't it weird how I'm a guy and I kiss girls?"
Dramatic gasps. Yeah. It becomes apparent how absurdist and also reductionist some of those tropes are You know,
Yeah.
I wouldn't want to be reduced to any one single aspect of myself either.
I mean,
Oh
And
yeah.
I
Steven,
want to see it as a win to be represented by someone who has one single aspect in common with me and literally no other features.
Steven Universe, if we can bring that up, like, yeah, all the crystal gems in it are at least coded to be
All
lesbian and stuff.
Mhm.
But again, like you said, that's like the 300th most interesting thing about him a lot of the time.
Right, right.
Unless you're talking about Garnet, where the whole thing is that, oh, they're a relationship and stuff, and
Yeah,
society
Garnet
doesn't
isn't
accept
just
them.
representation of
I mean,
gay relationships. He
I think
is relationship.
I think there's like a lot of extra layers with Steven Universe in particular because not only because first of all, like to begin with, um I think the details of how their society works is part of what's interesting about them because the show is about these alien creatures that we're just not familiar with the gems. Gems
Right.
are sexless, non-binary creatures that function kind of like computers and use she her pronouns. Like that's just how
Right.
it is. You know, it's like it's just and that in of it that is interesting because it's different from, you know, the human characters on the show like Steven and Connie and all them, you know what I mean?
Hmm.
Mhm.
And then it's like, okay, but if there were two if there were two um well, because they're aliens, they become one person. Da, 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 you know what I mean? So to
Right.
an Steven Universe, I think is like a weirder. It's not the best example because they're
Yeah,
part of like
it's
an alien race that has like unique things about it that
but it
are
also
inherently interesting. So it's kind of
it,
complicated.
it's kind of showing that certain concepts like, you know, it being okay to be divergent are
Hmm.
universal. They're not tied to the human experience, you know. Any
Yeah,
being capable of feeling thoughts and emotions has these rights.
yeah, definitely.
Getting a little bit back more on topic, though, getting away from Steven Universe, because Steven Universe is one of the shows that I could talk about for hours, just like Undertale.
Honestly.
Yeah.
I have one fic, really, really short, but I do have one. It's one of the fandoms that I put my flag into
Hmm.
by writing a one shot
Mm-hmm.
about Spinel, of course, because best gem.
That's that's a weird way of saying Garnet.
Fight me IRL pasta.
I don't have the money for plane tickets to Hawaii.
Coward.
Fight me IRL. I don't got the money, coward. That's kind of like that's kind of
Where
like.
do I build the boxing ring?
Are we gonna have a? Are we going to have a chat? Are we gonna have a? Are we gonna have like a chess boxing match, like the odd ones out there with someone else? I don't remember who. Anyways, yeah. The you also putting into the Doctor Who fandom. This is just a little like self-indulgent question, but you said I told you about my story and stuff where basically the first story of my AU was basically, hey, what if Flowey went through the freaking twisted as hell maze thing that the doctor did to get.
Yeah. I have your fic bookmarked. I haven't gone through it yet, but it is very much on my list. It sounds really interesting.
Yeah. The world he literally goes through is black and white, by the way. which, by the way, side note, I've stated before that I wanted to make my fic into like a fan comic one day and stuff, and I thought, hey, what would really help with that is like if I made the other world like black and white and stuff, so that would like take off like a bunch of a workload for somebody and stuff. So yeah, because coloring takes forever if you don't know anything about drawing.
Oh, I gave up drawing at like 13.
Too hard. Cupcake, you can attest to this. Coloring takes forever.
Coloring does indeed take a while. Although, the way I color, it doesn't take as long as the heckin' line art. Like, line art.
Everybody has their weird thing. Like, I've been, as an artist, it was super important for me to find a coloring style / technique that, like, suited me and felt like my art and looked aesthetically pleasing to me, but also was, like, efficient and didn't take me forever. So I've cut down the amount of time that it takes to color by a lot. I think nowadays I don't take more than 2 hours. But that's like for like one character or whatever, which honestly was not that bad considering.
Yeah, when you do something all the time, then it starts to become really, really easy. Like, if I go through a long period without writing anything, then even a few paragraphs seems to take me forever because I'm just out of practice. But if I'm keeping to a consistent habit, then I can get very large amounts done in a short amount of time.
Yeah, that's probably why I haven't written anything.
Aspects of visual art would be similar.
Yeah. Okay. So next question. Your first Undertale fic was called MMKC2, which was Mew Mew Kissy 2 for those that don't know the.
For filthy casuals who don't know about Mew Mew.
Yeah.
Plebs.
your first Undertale fic. Explore themes of PTSD and how they shape our experiences / perception on fiction. What made you want to explore that and also just another more general question, what made you finally decide to take the plunge on writing Undertale stuff when you've been like umming and ahhing about it for so long? And why that specifically?
Well, if you check the date on MMKC2, you'll see I wrote it about a week after Deltarune came out.
No.
So I was high on the hype that comes with having the new game. So I think while I'd been an Undertale fan for a while, this was the first time I was so caught up in it that I just felt the need to write about.
Dude, you did not. Dude, you didn't write this like a week after. You wrote it like a day after November 1st.
I forgot. Yeah, I think it's coming back to me. The very next day was the day I go to the library, and so I sit down in a quiet little spot at the library, and I type up. That one, it's funny. See, before that fic, my highest rated fic was something in a Disney fandom that reached 18 kudos. I got almost 100 on MMKC2 on the ride home from the library.
Holy flip.
Oh my god.
That must have been insane.
The Deltarune hype. Yeah, the Deltarune hype was just so strong. So many people desperate for more. Credit where credit is due, the basic premise of that fic, the two Alphys iterations having different opinions of Mew Mew because of their experiences, that wasn't my concept. I linked to where I found it, I think, in an author's note. It was a headcanon I saw on r/Deltarune. Because after playing the game, I did nothing but binge read Reddit posts about it.
Of course, naturally.
As
Right.
you do.
Right, right. So, the prose is mine, but the basic premise was borrowed.
Hmm.
I do find it an extremely fascinating topic because we kind of have this feeling like whenever we have an opinion about a work of fiction, we usually have these rational ways of putting it. Well, of course, I would like this because it is well put together. It has good characterization. It has etc. It has etc. But I think we have a lot of irrational, subjective opinions a lot of the time that we aren't fully cognizant of having them. If that makes sense.
Yeah.
Like, sometimes, in Alfie's case in that fic, it's pretty dramatic. She'd be kind of in denial about it, but she only really hates that because it reminds her of her own horrible experiences when all she wanted was something cutesy and escapist.
Yeah.
But I think it happens on a more subtle level to all of us, which is part of why it's so hard to answer questions like, why do you like Kara and Frisk? Why do you like Karisk? Chances are that answer is probably rooted in some emotional aspect of myself I don't fully understand.
Hmm. Yeah, I mean, people going a bit into my thing and stuff, my thing and stuff. Like, I talk about. I think I talked about this before, but with Undertale and everything, one of the things that brought me back into the fandom and stuff, and what actually saved me from a depression I had been having ever since the start of the year of like 2018 and stuff, was me watching Glitch Tale. And I know that seems like, wow, you watch Glitch Tale to get over depression? Well, that's a bit weird.
To be fair, a lot of people did. A lot of people did.
But yeah, I watched that AU and stuff. And I honestly think that I'm a lot less hard on it because of that, because that brought me back from like a depression and everything. And and, and yeah, I could if I was like if I like kept up with it and stuff, like I watched episode when each episode like came out and stuff each and every week and stuff, each and every week I say that, each and every time it came out and stuff, I'd probably be more harsh on it and stuff. But considering that's the thing that brought me out of a depression and everything, I will always have look through it with some sort of rose tinted glasses and stuff, because
Yeah, I think that comes up in a lot of fandoms. Especially Doctor Who.
mm-hmm.
I think a lot of people, there are very strong rational arguments that can be made about a lot of things, like who's better, Davis, Moffat, Chibnall? Was it the third Doctor's run? Was it the 10th? There are a lot of good arguments that can be made, but I think it's very, 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 very easy to fall into this trap of having a subjective emotional connection to one period of the show's history or one portrayal of the Doctor, something like that.
Yeah.
And to kind of look for rational reasons to hate something else that doesn't quite fit with it.
Yeah, I mean, like,
It's something I try to guard against in my own mind and probably fail miserably too.
yeah, I mean, it's just like with Doctor Who and stuff. Like, I think I think a lot of people look back on the Russell T Davies era with a lot more like nostalgia and a bit rose-tinted glasses and stuff, like I said before, because especially if you lived in the UK and stuff, a lot of stuff was better in like 2005 and stuff when that show, when Russell T Davies ran that show and everything. It's like it wasn't super great and stuff, but it was better, so people were just associated with better times and stuff that affects.
Yeah, there's I remember reading this study that talked about the "in my day" phenomenon.
Yeah.
In which older people have a tendency to romanticize their own use.
Mm-hmm.
I remember reading a study that talked about how, in a large number of senior citizens interviewed, they found that they could almost all remember positive things about their own use better than they could remember negative things.
Yeah, I
So
mean,
the researchers' conclusion was that
I mean,
because the brain has a tendency to either throw out random bad memories as garbage or even try to repress them deliberately, that it creates this skewed representation of the past that's only constructed of the most positive memories someone has, only their cherished memories. They
I
remember.
definitely, I
Hmm?
definitely agree with that perspective. As somebody who has gone through a lot in their
Hmm.
childhood, as somebody who has experienced a lot of really terrible things,
Hmm.
someone who's been diagnosed with PTSD, and
Hmm.
um because when I look back and I think about being a kid, um I don't think about the stuff that's happened to me. I think about um to be completely honest, I just mentally put myself back at in my room, in my, what is it? I had like a little kitty desk. I had books. I had
Hmm.
markers. I had a composition book to write in. I had coloring books. I had my own radio, not radio, one of those CD cassette combination things. Um, and I would just like when I think of being little, and I'm like, yeah, those were the good days. I think of that, and I don't think about being physically abused. I don't think about um, being emotionally manipulated. I don't think about, um, you know, my negative memories are extremely repressed to the point where, in my mind, it's like it never happened at all. But but I definitely like to bring it back to what you were saying about the back in my days. For me, I've always been somebody that's been kind of, what is it? And this is gonna sound so dumb in hindsight, but I've always been super awkward about digital music and not having it like as either a download or like on a CD or whatever. Because when I
Hmm.
think of CDs, I think of my radio from when I was little. I would put songs. Also, and then on top of that, there's also the fact that what is it? My mom, whenever we went through a new stage in our lives, my mom would make a new CD for the car. She would burn it herself with songs that we liked, songs that she liked, and stuff like that. So I just, when I think of CDs, I think of that. It's like that stuff subconsciously. I think of it, and
Yeah.
so I'm like, oh, CDs are a good thing. They're really, I don't know. And then and then there's a part of me that's like, that struggles to understand why people are like, oh yeah, CDs are dumb. Why would you want that when you could just look it up on the internet, or you could just get and use a streaming service, or just do literally anything else and just get a digital copy? Why would you want to risk losing it or breaking the thing? You know what I mean? It's just,
Yeah, there was. I
it's
remember at some. I'm. I have similar memory connections. I remember someone at some point saying the smell of hay was terrible, and I remember thinking, "What? What are you talking about? Hay is the best smell in the world." And it occurred to me only later that I grew up in Illinois. I had to take care of a lot of livestock in the dead of winter, and so to me, the smell of hay is associated with the hay storeroom, which was this warm, cozy place out of the snow where I'd stop and take a break from the hard chores out in the snow. If that makes sense. That to other people, the hay is just this kind of gross, grassy stuff associated with big, smellier animals. But to me, it's warmth and safety. Some primal part of my brain associates it with that. Some primal part of my brain cataloged it away as a scent that we should be on the lookout for in case we're ever in a harsh Ice Age environment or being chased by a saber-tooth.
Yeah, I understand that. Like, also, the smell of hay is, like, not for the same reason, but because that reminds me of, like, childhood pleasures, such as, like, the state fair. We, like, every year we go to the state fair, and, like, a lot of the times, the benches are made out of hay, or like, you go to the petting zoo and it's, of course, a bunch of hay everywhere. And so I just,
or a hay ride.
Yeah, exactly. So I just think of, like, I like the smell of hay because of those good memories. So definitely makes sense.
I definitely, because it's one thing to hear, in my opinion, it's one thing to hear, what is it? It's one thing to hear, someone say, "Oh yeah, a study was done saying that there's an association," but it's another thing to like look at yourself and be like, "Yeah, I see it in myself,"
Yeah, this speaks true to how the human mind works, in my experience.
Yeah, I have a human mind, and look what mine did.
Yeah.
Yeah. Just interesting. It's like I remember like this is gonna be completely just so different from what we've been doing, but talking about it stuff. I watched this show called The Crown, which basically is about Queen Elizabeth II and stuff, and in the UK and everything, the Queen of England and stuff, and there's this scene where, if you don't know, whenever there's an election and stuff, and the whatever party, like, one of the election stuff goes to form a government, it goes to form a government, and has to do a little ceremony with the Queen, basically asking, like, "Hey, can I form a government?" and all that. And basically it's like the party that the Queen personally doesn't really like all that much, like, won the election and stuff, and the party leader just comes. Just comes in, basically, like, the first words out of his mouth are, "Well, I guess I better apologize." And she's like, "For what? Winning?" I would think you'd much prefer if my opponent had won. And she's just like, "As queen, I'm not supposed to have preferences." And the guy's just like, "Well, we all do. We try not to have preferences, but we do, don't we? It's what makes us human." Yeah. It's just...
But I'm only human.
Yeah.
No?
Yeah,
Yes.
Basically, anyone who says that they are that their analysis of, like, media and stuff is completely without bias or anything really is just not true, because no matter what, as long as you've experienced, like, some things and have, like, a certain taste for whatever source of media you have, you're going to have some amount of bias in you.
Yeah, definitely. That's
it's
part of why when Steven, not to bring it back, not it's relevant, I promise. But when Steven Universe Future came out, and a lot of people were very critical of it, and they were a lot of people were like, "Oh, Steven's characterization and his motivations make no sense. No person would react this way to this situation or this way to this situation. It's just out of character, and they're not explaining his power, his new powers. Da 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 da. They suck. The writers don't know what they're talking about." It wasn't just me disagreeing. It felt so painful to me because it's like I actually, because it felt so real and so accurate to at
When
least
we
my experiences with
when
PTSD and how it
yeah,
affected how it affects my day-to-day experiences with regular
the
life.
the
Like
flips.
in
Oh,
in
sorry.
my opinion, I thought it was represented beautifully. And then the rough part is seeing other people's criticisms of the show, and me trying to me first of all, I have an emotional reaction because I'm like, but this is just right. There's no debate. But then I'm thinking to myself, how much of this is me having a bias towards, my personal experience? How much is this me, and how much of this is me being blinded by being represented, period? Or how much of this is because you know, it just makes it really hard to know what is because of your biases and what is just an opinion that nobody else um is thinking about.
Hmm.
I would say that any work of fiction that succeeds in some way in forging a good emotional connection with anyone, it succeeded as a work. Um, it may
But
have
for a
its
lot of people,
flaws,
like for
but
example, people were like, "Wow, I can't get invested into this whole thing with Steven feeling weird about around the gems that look like his mom, or I can't get behind, all of his baggage with the family because it's just with his family members like Pearl and Garnet and etc., because it just doesn't make sense, and I don't get it, so I just
mhm.
don't connect to it emotionally. And then a lot of people, again, it's like, what it's hard to tell what is me having a bias, what is the actual facts, and what is another person's bias, because other people are going to have the bias of, well, if I couldn't connect to it, then that means nobody could connect to it, and it's bad because nobody could connect to it.
Part of this, I feel, is we all have this desire to hunt for some sort of objective truth about fiction. That there has to be somewhere, if you dig for it, a solid, objective viewpoint about this work that simply cannot be argued against. And I'm not sure if that always exists. Like, we can make objective statements like, usually, a work that does these things in a certain way will not forge an emotional resonance with its audience. But then some other people will still like it. And for those people, that work has succeeded. We can say
I
things
just
like the Mary Sue character is an objective travesty and no one should like any work that has it. But then there are works that fall under that category that a lot of people like. And it feels elitist in a way to try to look down on such people as being blinded by their emotions. Emotions are a way that we try to contextualize our universe, our world, and our experiences. And
I
works of
think
fiction ideally should be another tool to help us do that. And if
yeah.
that tool helps anyone at all, like if I see a poorly constructed hammer that someone still used just fine to help hammer some nails, I'm not going to tell them they're wrong for having used that hammer. if any of this
Definitely
makes
not.
sense.
I just think with a lot of I personally am of the school of thought that there is an objective stance on how good is this thing, how well made is this thing, and how effective is this thing at doing what it was intended to do. Because there's a reason why there's things called guilty pleasures where we like something not because it was well done or not because it succeeded in what it was supposed to do, but we like it because maybe the concept was intriguing and we wish it could have been better, or maybe we think it failed in a way that in of itself was entertaining, kind of like, how people are like, oh yeah, B-movie is so funny, ha ha ha, mean, stuff like that. I think that there is an objective, what is it? I think that there always is an objective level of a measurement of how good something is when looking at, okay, this movie was supposed to be doing this, but it did not do it. But just because the piece of media failed in its intentions doesn't mean that it failed in having a different effect on somebody that could have been positive.
Yeah, like like there are like horror movies and stuff people watch that were supposed to be scary and everything, but they're so hokey and stuff that they make people laugh, and it's just like if someone could get something out of it, then it's not.
Yeah, it's not a bad thing. It's just objectively not well made, and then that's it. At the end of the day, how well made it is doesn't matter that much. It's just a thing that exists. Oh yeah, that thing was well made. That thing wasn't.
Yeah, a lot of people also do tend to get a little too invested in making sure their opinion is regarded as right. Like people who post,
who cares if it's right?
3 hour long takedowns of this work of fiction, as though they think that this thing is so bad that civilization as a whole is deteriorating more rapidly for it having existed.
Right.
They're championing culture of all mankind by convincing people that they should feel bad for liking it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
I'm the smarty smart person. I know what I'm talking about. It's not like I'm biased at all. No, I'm an objective reviewer and stuff.
Yes.
And I agree with you, and this is just gonna sound like it's just a void that like never ends. But then there's also people like, for example, people who make YouTube videos pointing out like the flaws, and they're like, wow, this is so bad, this is so cringe or whatever, but they deliver it in a certain way, and at the end of the day, that video is its own piece of media that's entertaining in its own way. Like, I don't know if you guys have seen like
Cinema Sins.
Well, Cinema Sins is hit or miss sometimes. Sometimes they try too hard. But like, if you've seen like Shefrillis Productions, their Shark Tale video, oh my lord, that is some of the, like, everything he's saying is legit for the most part, right?
Yeah,
but like it's so funny and it's just hilarious.
Jenny Nicholson, kind of does that same kind of humor.
Or if you guys have seen like Saber Spark too.
I love Saber Spark.
Yeah.
It's like he's being he's discussing, he himself is maybe not being a perfectly objective robot, but
he also doesn't claim to be, which makes a difference.
Yeah, also that's a huge thing. You got to be humble. But the thing is, there's also what I'm talking about is like this weird middle ground of people who are discussing the objective quality of something while also making their own piece of media that uses that material to kind of like achieve something else, like whether it's a good laugh or whether it's trying to do something thought provoking or something like that. You
Right.
know what I mean? There's always going to be layers to
You're
weird layers to
technically
things.
constructing a piece of media just having this conversation.
Yeah.
True. Everything is a media. Done.
Wait, it's all media?
And all that.
Always has been.
Okay, well, we've got
Plot twist. Kara is just a phone app.
plot.
Kara's just a
No,
social media.
Plot twist. Plot twist. Kara was the chair the whole time. Okay, so we have one or two. We have one or
Plot
two.
twist. The underground. Oh, sorry. I was gonna say plot twist. The underground is just a metaphor for a cell phone, and each of the monsters is an app.
Make sure to like, comment, and subscribe for more mind-blowing theories.
If that's true, then Alphys is like a fan fiction.
Alphys is Amino. Alphys is Amino.
No, Alphys is Tumblr. Alphys is Tumblr.
No, you're right. Alphys is Tumblr.
Actually, yes.
No, wait. Alphys can't be Tumblr anymore because there's no porn allowed on Tumblr anymore. Aww.
Aww.
Anyways, yeah, we have one or two more questions. Then we're gonna wrap stuff up because we've been going for 2 hours now.
Yeah, let's wrap it up soon.
Yeah. Okay.
One or two more questions I think I can do.
Yeah, we just have one or two more questions. Did you think when you were writing your Charisk frick, your Charisk fic, that it would be your most popular fic?
I had this vague hope that it might, less because it was sipping and more because it was multi-chapter, meaning I get to double dip on the front page of AO3 more times.
I sometimes forget that AO3 has a legit front page, considering like when I use it, I like just start from like my my thing and go on from there.
A lot of people search for newest first. You know, the underrated heroes of the site.
Yeah.
I tend to use last updated a lot.
Yeah. And so, if you write a multi-chapter fic, you're just getting a little more exposure. I was very pleasantly surprised by how well received it was.
Mm-hmm.
I kind of figured I was really only treading ground that others had taken before.
Yeah.
You know, that mine was just sort of more the lower quality, off-brand version of other Charisk fics that already existed.
You'd be surprised what's out there.
Yeah, I was pleasantly surprised. It'll probably be a very long time before I manage to write something that surpasses that in terms of readership.
Yeah, I mean, you have more kudos than me. I only have my most popular fic only has about like 75 something kudos. So.
Oh yeah, it only has 75 something kudos. No big deal. And then you just look at those artists, those writers that have like 5, and like 3 of them are guests. You know.
But Kobold's fics have like 200 something, and like 100 something on a couple of them.
It's just so crazy.
Yeah.
I don't know. I just thought that was funny.
Yeah. All right. So.
Numbers. So many numbers.
Yeah.
Numbers.
All right. One last question, then we're probably gonna wrap up, unless the chat has any questions. Oh God, I haven't been looking at the chat all that much. Sorry if you have something.
Booing me.
All right. What other, like, I guess, Undertale fanfics, but just fanfics in general do you read in your spare time? It doesn't have to be like Charisk or anything like that. It's just what type of fanfics do you usually read in your spare time?
Not very many. Every once in a while, I'll enter some terms into a search bar because I'm just that desperate, that hyped for new content. And I'll probably
Oh
read
my
it until I
god.
find.
Are you
until I
sure
find
you're
it.
not my twin?
I'll read until I find one author that I like, and then I'll binge read everything they've written, and then everything they've bookmarked, and then I'm generally
Oh
done.
my gosh. You were just calling me
Like,
out so hard right now.
Elsa, I don't think it's just you that does that.
I have only like
No, but
9
like
bookmarks.
that's so me. That's what I do. It's like oh my gosh, I need this thing. I search it up. I find an author. I'm like, oh my god, this writer is so good. Binges everything, and the next thing you know, it's 3 a.m.
Oof.
Yeah. And then the worst is when you find someone who's just absolutely perfect, nails the characters exactly as they exist in your head, and you find that their last work was written in like 2017.
Oh god,
Just
this
screams
fix,
into the void. No.
this fix so good. When was it last updated? 4 years ago. Flip.
So,
Yes.
I've had that.
it's an image of Spinel waiting.
Yeah. Drift away. Yeah. If that's it, I guess we'll just wrap it up.
Well,
All right. Well, thank you, all of you, for being here. It's been a wonderful time.
it has. Thank you for having me on.
Yeah, thank you, KoboldKing in particular.
Yes.
For those tuning in, our next episode, it's going to be on Sunday, possibly. I don't know, or
No. Well, no, it'll be
one is
next Thursday.
yeah, next Thursday. Yeah, we're actually getting a schedule now. Weird, but yeah,
Wow.
the next episode and stuff. And the next episode is going to have the writer XWolf26 on for him to discuss his Undertale fix, especially Doubletail in particular, which is his big fanfic and stuff. So yeah, that'll be interesting to see. Beyond that, I don't know. There are a couple of people that I'm gonna be asking on and stuff, but who knows? But at least for next week,
we know that's who.
at least for next week, we have at least a firm date and stuff for once. So yeah, that'll be good. So I guess that's it. Thank you all for watching. Have a good night.
Yay.
Take care. And
Take care.
and stay determined.
Stay determined.
Stay determined.
Determination.
Yee. And